Unfortunately, we're talking about the elderly. Do they have enough income? Are they going to outlive their retirement? It's a huge question where the number one concern for a lot of those in retirement is outliving their retirement. So we're going to break it down, ladies and gents. Just here to drop a few cents with Earl, the money coach, with a decade license in the financial industry and 2 decades of investment portfolio experience. I want to break down a topic that I have with one of my clients as they're getting older, not knowing what to do. I have my computer with me. I want the most accurate statistics here as of April 1st, 2025. So let's get into it, but make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And in the description below, we have how you could get approved for life insurance, health savings accounts, and for my business owners, how to have 6 figures to start your business. So let's get started. It's the problem of what are you going to do once you hit retirement. 54% of people, not 20%, not 30%, 54% of people in America have to go back to work within 4 years after retiring because they don't have enough. People are not thinking, is this going to last me? A lot of average 401ks have $188,000. That's the only retirement most people have. If you're spending 30, 40,000 a year, how is 188,000 going to work for you? It's really hard, and a lot of elderly citizens aren't thinking about this. I love calling it the retirement red zone. Now, what is the retirement red zone? Is 5 years before you retire, 5 years after you retire, and wanting to make sure that you have everything in play. Because a lot of folks, once they retire, they keep their money in a lot of these accounts that are very risky, volatile accounts. When you hit retirement, you don't want to have all your eggs in volatile baskets. Because if you have a 2008 hit, you could lose how much money? In March 2022, market went down 30%. How could that affect a lot of people? So you really want to make sure you know exactly what you're doing. Statistically speaking, 45% of Americans that retire at 65 will run out of retirement funds. 45% of people, once they hit retirement, they're going to run out of funds. And it's not their fault. It's not from planning or not having proper planning. Is a lot of people don't have a target. I tell a lot of my clients, you need to have a target as in a number. How do you expect to have a goal and hit it if you don't have a target to hit? Do you need $1 million, $3 million, $10 million? What is your target that you have a goal? You just can't say, I'm going to retire at 65. You need to have a target so you can work towards it. So that's huge. We call that a FIN number. FIN, FIN, a financial independence number. How much money you need to retire and consistently be able to stay retired is a huge thing. So you need to know these things. If not, 45% of people, like they say, are going to retire. 55% of single women and 45% of single men and 41% of couples face this risk. So that's huge. So single or married, you still have a huge risk because it's not something that we think about. And it's not just that, it's a lot of it's health. 7 out of 10 people are going to have a long-term care sickness, a long-term care need as they get older. So do you have something in place? Do you have long-term care? One of the things I help a lot of my clients with is a long-term care. So if you do get sick during retirement, you have that income, a supplemental income to take care of everything. So you're not going in to your retirement funds. Something that happened to my father. He spent 3 years in a nursing home before he passed away. It was 103,000 a year. So you have a $400,000 retirement. You're spending over 100K a year. In 3 years, he spent 75% of his retirement because you didn't have something in play. So that happens to a lot of folks. Even if they have a retirement strategy, do you have something that could be a long-term care? Now, 80% of older households are financially struggling or at risk. So 80%. So when you look at your parents, your grandparents, as you start getting older, they're at risk is a huge thing. Social Security may not be enough, or pensions aren't around no more. What are they doing? Are they switching their accounts so you can't have a pension like income with a fixed index annuity or certain strategies like that? Do you have it in play? It's something huge to understand. So a lot of these folks are at risk. I cannot say how many times I have clients that they only have Social Security. On health open enrollment, health insurance season, literally, we're talking Obamacare, $7, $8 products. They literally say, hey, I make this much, I'm on a fixed income, I cannot afford that. So think about that. So 80% of folks are going through those needs. So like I said, 54% of people have to go back to work. It drops down a little bit more when they say 26 to 40% will return in 6 years. So it could be a huge effect in that case. Now, 22% of seniors are employed. Okay, 22% of seniors, which is 65 to 85, are employed, meaning they may be getting a Social Security, but they're still working. They may be working at a Target, a Walmart, something simple, and 39% have previously retired. So that's a huge number. So they know they've retired, but hey, I retired, but I'm going to pull from my Social Security, pull from my 401k, and still have income coming in. That's huge. Now, 13% of retirees plan to return to work in the next year. 13%. So they've already had this happen. They looked at their budget, they looked at their income. Look, I don't have enough. 13%, one out of every 10 retirees, they're actually thinking about coming back into the marketplace. Man, that is huge. Why is that? Proper planning, proper strategy, volatile accounts, different kind of accounts. They may not have had those. Now, a big problem is Social Security. I call it so security because it may not be there for everyone. It's not going to be enough. 27 to 40% of seniors depend entirely on Social Security. Let me say that again. 27 to 40% of seniors. All right. So almost half of the seniors out there depend entirely on Social Security. When Social Security, I've seen people talk about 600, 700, maybe $800 a month. The average is about 1,300, but 1,300 for a basic apartment. I'm down here in the South. We have in Florida, Georgia, 1,300 could barely get you an apartment. So how are they supposed to live on that kind of stuff? 12% of men and 15% of women rely on it for 90% or more of their income. All right, 12% of men and 15% of women, 90% of their income is their Social Security. So 10% maybe something else, maybe from a pension plan or savings accounts or stuff like that. So it's not enough. We call this a three-legged stool. The three-legged stool is having Social Security, some kind of personal saving, or some kind of work saving like a pension or 401k. What does that mean? If you don't have enough, if one of those legs fall, you're SOL. So Social Security has become so much of people's only way of living, and it was never created for that. Social Security or your 401ks, certain plans were not designed to be your only resource of income during retirement. Social Security wasn't designed to do that, but most people are using it. So you want to check in. You could actually go on the website ssa.gov and calculate how much your Social Security is going to be for you. Now, a supplement, which I specialize in, is annuities. Fixed index annuities or a lot of these annuity products, you could create a pension like income. You could create your personalized Social Security. Even when the principal runs out, you still get paid out a lifetime income. Folks, that's huge. You had $100,000 grow to $300,000, but now you're able to take out money. So 10, 15 years down the road, when that 300,000 has gone and diminished, you still have lifetime income coming in. That's why so much folks kind of focus, and they had a record years in 2023 and 2024. They had record years, 18 to 24% boost just on how many people are getting money into your fixed index annuities, right? Now, how do you have it? You have immediate annuities where you put your money in, you get immediate lifetime income. Some people use it as a growth strategy. Look, I put my money in here, it's still going to grow just like a 401k, just like an IRA, but I have a floor, so I'm not losing anything. So you have that guaranteed income, guaranteed growth, 0% loss. That's huge. So you could have it could be deferred down the road, it could be immediate. Understand that some of these strategies, as you guys are going towards retirement, can be structured so it can have tax advantage, meaning all that growth you get to have tax free, which could be a huge benefit for those looking to retire, as well as bonuses. If you're moving your money from an account, say a retirement, a 401k, IRA, where you have taxes and taxation, some of these annuity products, they could actually give you a bonus. So you had that bonus to kind of to wash out what that is. Or if you just have cash in your account, hey, you just got yourself anywhere from a 12% to a 25% bonus for moving your money into these kind of accounts. Why do I talk about this strategy? Is because a lot of elderly don't have a supplemental income. And supplemental income is you have something from here, something from there, or this strategy, that strategy. You put it all together. So instead of just depending solely on the Social Security, you've created something else where you could actually start using that money. That's huge. And then also, you may have different plans like your insurances. Now, why is insurance good for those that are elderly? If anything happens to you, obviously your beneficiaries are taken care of. But you also have living benefits, which takes care of your health side. So you could get cash value, you could get the growth in your permanent life insurances, but you also have that long-term care, that critical, that chronic illness protection. So if you have a nursing home need or need an assistant, or if you have something like a heart attack, strokes, cancer, cardiac arrest, all these things, you could actually access the life insurance side of your policy while you're living, but also have that cash accumulation growth. So it's a huge strategy that could kind of put everything together. So you have your health taken care of, retirement taken care of, all these things, and you have that tax free growth. So it's a great strategy to implement if you're looking for something other than your basic retirement needs. Now, folks, understand that there's pros, there's cons when you look at insurances, when you look at annuities, when you have your different kind of accounts, maybe your health savings accounts you have in, you may have to wait till a certain age, taxation, cost of insurances, surrender charges, you may have to keep stuff like in your annuities in for a certain amount of time. You want to have all these things understood before you want to make these rash decisions and switch everything up. But the key is you need to start focusing. If you're in your 40s, if you're in your 50s, it's still not too late. You're 50, 55 years old. You can still implement a lot of these strategies. But the key is how to kind of move your money, diversify your portfolio so you can use it to the best of your ability. Because you don't want to be that statistic where so many people, almost half of people, solely depending on Social Security. People have to go back within 2 to 5 years. Right now, 13% of people are thinking of going back to work this year as they're older. So, as you're getting there, you want to think and you want to have strategies. Understand you have strategic rollouts, you have rollovers, different strategies you could use to move your current money if it's in something that's heavily taxed and heavily penalized to go into your tax advantage and your tax free bracket with different strategies. So, you need any help, feel free to reach out. Click in the description below. Make sure you guys like, follow, and subscribe for more information. You're here with Earl, the Money Coach, and this is for the elderly. If you need anything, understand this: plan for longer than you're originally thought of. If you thought, look, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, I'm going to kick the bucket, it's not that case anymore. Understand, I'm going to leave you with this. When retirement first came out, your pension, your Social Security, the average life expectancy was only 61 years old, but retirement was always 65. So most people ended up passing away before they even got to use their pensions and Social Security and all these retirement needs. Now, life expectancy, 87, 89 years old. So you went from barely anyone needing retirement goods to everyone needing it for decades. So this is something that you want to think about. How can I structure something for myself that may not be a government issued kind of product or strategy? You want, as you get older, to have financial backing and financial security on something that you could control for yourself, not into a pool of everything else, but something that could be used for yourself. It's insurances, annuities, HSAs, all these kind of accounts, just to name a few, where you could tailor it to your own needs. Focus on that, and I'll see you on the next video.